I'm Alad Gilo, one of the co-founders of Reach. Cold Email Hot Takes is a mini video series in which we talk to inspiring sales leaders about their approach to outbound sales. In this week's episode, we're excited to have with us Yurii from Woodpecker. Can you quickly introduce yourself, Yurii?
Yeah, what's up, guys? My name is Yurii. I'm leading outbound team and basically the business growth at Woodpecker. So what am I doing? As I'm basically responsible for the BDRs, to book the meetings, to fill in the pipeline, to have good conversations and build good relationship with our clients. That's it.
It's amazing. No, I think you're like the perfect person to have on this podcast. Not only did you help pave the way for Woodpecker and kind of figuring out its outbound strategy, but you guys are essentially experts, right, on cold emails. So really excited to have you with us. One of the things that I think I want to jump into right away is just understanding how you guys like to stand out from the noise, right? We live in a world where people are just overwhelmed with the amount of emails they're getting. There are way more SDRs in the world. There's a lot more competition. How do you stay above that and get noticed?
Well, I guess it's the mix of both things. You have to understand the technicalities. So kind of, the best practices for the emailing, like you have to nail the preview text. You have to nail the subject line, the CDA, all of those things. But at the same time, it's also to be relevant. You can have literally the best cold email, but not because the timing is not right, the deal might not move forward. So that's the thing. We are really a lot into targeting, to making sure that we are relevant to the people. So we know whom we are contacting, what we are offering. We know what's up with them. So we have a different frameworks, how to understand with what company, what they're going through right now, and how can we help them. Based on that, we're doing different outreach strategies, and then those are the technicalities come in. You need to nail the subject line to make sure the email is open. You need to nail also the preview text, because that's the thing. A lot of people are reading the emails from the preview section, so it's like, I don't remember, it's like 90 something characters in the preview section or more. So you have to nail that stuff. So we're not starting like, hey Elad, my name is Yurii from Woodpecker. No, cut that stuff away. Let's go straight to the chase. Let's say my trigger is that they're hiring right now. So I'm like, on your hiring page right now, or like your hiring page is drowning with the SDR roles right now. So something like this, something they can see them literally like understanding what's up with them. And then I'm kind of trying to tie from that first line to a question, which is mostly like question is there to tease the problem. And then within the problem is like, teasing a solution a little bit and just asking like a softer call to action if it makes sense or something like this to talk. And that's literally it. The only aim of the first conversation is to start, like the first email is to start a conversation. It's not to book a meeting. It's not to make the deal done. It's basically to start talking.
I love it. So actually what you mentioned at the beginning, I think is really fascinating, because I think a lot of people don't spend as much time on that. And I think that what you're talking about is kind of almost like your quality of your leads that you're reaching out to, and making sure that who you're reaching out to is more likely to have this problem or be in kind of a buying, interest. They're looking for a way to solve what they're going through. That obviously does a lot of the heavy lifting for you if you get that right. But then moving on from that, the structure you mentioned obviously makes a lot of sense. Having, a good subject line that piques interest, the preview text is key, right? Because people are looking at that, and then they're looking on their phones. They're not in a computer where they're looking, everything at once. Everything very fast. So you need that kind of like, what is the hook that's going to intrigue them enough to open and then read the next line, and then read the next line, and read the next line.
Exactly. This is something that Will Albert mentions a lot, and they found out that the attention span that we are having right now is around 10-ish seconds per reading an email. So we literally have 10 seconds to kind of resonate with people. And that's a huge challenge. You kind of, the longer your email is, the lesser the chance that, you can really capture the attention. But it's not always the case. If you're really good with storytelling, you can allow yourself to go like above 100 words and do the right email. So I'm not an evangelist of always be writing short, cold emails, but they perform better, yes.
Yeah.
But if you're doing storytelling, go with that also. Yeah, but that's the thing. We kind of have to understand the technicalities, the rules of the real estate where we are. If we are on LinkedIn, let's say, posting on LinkedIn. You can be like really posting good content, but because you're violating the rules of the post, your algorithm can be cutting down your reach. Exactly the same with the cold emails. If you're not understanding that the attention span is like narrowing down constantly, because, you know, we're in the age of TikToks, quick fashion tips, and like, you know, the fast trends that are constantly changing, you just really need to have to keep it up with it. And that's the only thing to stand out.
I agree with that. I think also, you know, short emails, I mean, I think the data shows they do perform better, as you suggest. They also, I think, on a kind of another level, really force us to get really good at teasing out their problem and explaining our solution in the most concise way possible, which I think is a great exercise to do, because so often you see people trying to run through their solution, or, you know, even the problem they're trying to tackle, and it's so long, and they're repeating themselves, and there's so much detail that's, you know, irrelevant essentially to it. Like the muscle that you're building by just being extremely concise, I think is an amazing, I think, because that's what people will understand, right? You're talking about impact, quick, to the point. I think it's a good practice.
Exactly. The best writing tip that I've received is cut it in half. So whatever the cold email that you're writing, try to cut it like I'm not literally every time cutting it in half, but, you know, every email that you write, try to like reduce by 40%. It's going to be a challenge, because how do I phrase that stuff? And then you'll have your brain start taking like, okay,
exactly.
Now I need to start working.
Exactly. Fantastic. So, and so speaking a little bit of that, like preview text and you know, tying that into the problem, et cetera, how are you thinking about personalization? Is it something you guys do at Woodpecker? What are things that you like to use for personalization? If you're using it, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, this is, from my experience, this is a polarizing topic a little bit, because you have people who are saying go with personalization like crazy, and the people saying like, yo, there's no actual need of personalization when you're really relevant with the problem. So let's say
right.
Like you're targeting, like the way you're targeting, you've noticed that somebody, let's say, has just like switched the jobs and is hiring right now. So it's not really a personalization, because you have a regular templated email prepared just for that like trigger. And then you have the situation where people are like, yo, look for anything that they've posted, try to like, you know, search for their hobbies, tie that down, narrow it down to the problems and things like this. My take on it is you have to go with whatever works best for you. And the only way to check it is to constantly be testing both approaches. So if you're like Kyle Coleman, you might have the list of like, you know, if you are into skis, this is how you might tie it down to your problem that your solution is solving. If you are into boxing or wrestling, this is how you might be like, you know, targeting to that one. Yes, that's a cool thing, but it's very time consuming. Yeah. And if you have like literally 10 clients in the world that you can sell to, I mean, maybe that's the solution for you, that you need to really like understand their challenges, but also kind of like, you know, try to like grasp their attention by doing like really personalized first lines when you're like tying it down to, I don't know, whether they have a dogs and kind of from that direction. Just make sure that it's a smooth transition, because like, you know, I noticed you went to college. Me too. Yeah. All right. Our product is, no, it still don't work. But at the same time, it's always important to nail the nail that you're really relevant to that person. So you're really understanding the challenges, because, you know, I'm not personalizing email by saying that, you know, you've changed the job and you've hired the SDRs. The prospect might feel like I'm personalizing email, but I have a template of email prepared. But I went through the research, and I'm gathering the companies who are fulfilling only that like criteria. So this is like not really a personalization, but for them it feels like personalization. So it's kind of like personalization at scale, call it whatever you want to. So I'm more in that part, that you need to nail down that part, and that is up for you whether you want to take it further and kind of also use the personal kind of personalization.
It's interesting. I think that you're kind of hitting on this point of kind of definitions around personalization, right? Like it's kind of how you look at it. And I think that what you're talking about is true. I think the focus is relevance, right? Like it seems like that you know, relevance trumps personalization. And I think I would agree with that, actually. Like, you know, extremely relevant email, right, to the right person at the right time is much more impactful than just like a personalized, you know, email if you don't hit the other things as well, right? Like personalization isn't going to do all of the other lifting if the other pieces aren't met as well. But I would actually call what you're describing as personalization. Like it is, it, in my view, and I think my co-founder Guillermo would agree, that we don't necessarily think about personalization as just like, oh, I can talk about, a hobby of yours, or I can talk about like, that your favorite sports team or something. Like these are, we call them quite cheap personalizations. Like they're kind of, at the bottom of the barrel if you really, really, really are desperate or something, but that is certainly not the ideal. The ideal is to be relevant, as you're describing, and personalized in a way that kind of ties the both together. But knowing that somebody, changed jobs or that their company might be going through something, in my book would be personalization, because you're talking about something that's specifically related to them and something that's happened to them or is happening to them. And in that way, you're kind of obviously hitting both at the same time. But I know it's a very controversial topic because a lot of people have different kind of views and when it comes to this.
Yeah. It's very, as I said, it's very polarizing topic. Everybody is just like with different opinion and backing it up by some kind of data. But, okay.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, I think I will say that I think it really depends on. I think that you guys have an incredible approach and process that allows you to have these like, highly relevant lead lists, based on triggers. And I think that helps a ton, right? For some companies that maybe you don't have that or haven't been able to achieve that, you're probably going to get more results from people who are willing to read kind of the next line in your email if you do lead with something meaningfully personalized. It doesn't have to be like, you went to X college, because that doesn't matter. But something, I saw that you're leading a team of like S7 SDRs or something like that. Like I saw that on your LinkedIn. Like that can be something that is actually meaningfully personalized in that way. But yeah, it's completely depends on the team, the approach, the ICP, everything. So that makes a ton of sense. So I'm curious, you mentioned soft CTA in your email. So is it something that you've experimented with in the past, that you tried hard CTAs and they just don't work? Or just or you're just looking at the data? What is that?
So the thing with the softer tone is the more you are going with like, I understand you, I know what's up, and the more assumptions that you're making in your email, the better the chances that you're going to make a mistake, and that pushes away. So like, if I'm saying like, I've done the research, we're solving this and this, we're working with that and that company, let's meet for 30 minutes. You are like really assumptive here that this is something that be really valuable for that organization. But what we noticed with the time is it really helpful to be using an unsure tone, because you're not always nailing like your outreach or target. You're always going to make that little mistake here and there. Maybe the challenge a little bit off, because even though you've done the research, things seem to like, to fit for what you like to your checklist, but sometimes the actual challenge is different. And then using the unsure tones really helps to like move that conversation and start that conversation, because going like with strong questions, like if that's relevant or like it's not that relevant, but let's maybe meet sometime and talk about that. That might be pushing away people from having and starting that conversation. It might be easier to start like just like click Google random like answer not interested, or goodbye, whatever. But when you're saying like I'm like I might be off here completely, but is it something that is worth exploring?
Right.
It gives us the room for a mistake, and like it also will win a little bit of empathy from the people, because they're understanding I'm not like making myself as an expert, that I'm understanding completely their businesses. I'm just asking the questions. I'm just trying to start a conversation, and it's actually a little bit the way we're talking. We're not talking in the daily life. We're not talking with this like punchy languages. We're usually like we're including some words. We're including some uncertainty in some things. Like if you ask a CEO some questions, sometimes you might hear like it depends, I don't know, and kind of stuff. Even from them, you can hear that. So
right.
I'm always a big fan of translating the way you talk into your emails, and that just works for me.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense, and I think it also. We've heard this from a number of people, but I think from our own experience, but there's something about until you've built up a certain amount of trust with the person you're reaching out to, asking for time creates like a trigger reaction for people, right? Because like the thing that we're most protective about, especially in a professional setting, is probably time, right? Because we all don't have enough time to do everything we have to do in the day. We have colleagues that are asking us for time. We have, family life that's asking for time. Now this person I don't know is reaching out and asking for time for me. My knee-jerk reaction is to be like, no, I have to protect this time, right? Even if I might be interested if I were to build more trust, right? It's just kind of, that's the knee-jerk. And so I think what you're saying is that don't put them in this situation where they are going to kind of like have that reaction, but like keep it soft, keep it inquisitive, where you're kind of like curious and worth having kind of a chat about, even via emails, like worth continuing exchange, or worth worth exploring this another way, like ways that's going to be like, okay, they're not really asking for the right time. I could spend another email on this, right? And then you get them to the next one and the next.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's really important to understand how our brains react to any kind of social interaction. And from what I've read, from the researches that I've read, it seems to be that we have a few filters when we are interacting with a person. And the first filter that is going from the evolution is the lizard brain, the croc brain, whatever you call it, is, am I in danger? Is it dangerous for me right now? And asking for time sparks that, oh, I'm in danger. Somebody wants from me something. And this is literally the situation when we're not going through those first phase. So my idea is I need to go through all those filters to be heard. And if I'm asking for the time, I'll be stopped at the first phase. And then the next kind of brain is is there something for me? Can I understand? Can I learn something new? Can I just take away something from here? That's the second filter. But you're never going to get there unless you're passing the first one.
Yeah, no, completely agree. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about sequences, because we rarely have get the response on email one, or sometimes we do, and sometimes it's in subsequent follow-up emails. I'm curious how you guys approach that, or how many steps do you typically have in a sequence? Do you find that there's certain tactics in the second, third, fourth plus emails that are particularly useful if it's sharing resources or something like that? I don't know what works for you guys.
Yeah, so definitely go multi-platforms. So not only cold email, not only calling, not only LinkedIn, but intertwine those platforms together. If possible, bringing different people from the same organization. So let's say I'm sending a message, an initial message, and then I'm viewing your profile. But within the 2 days, you'll receive a like from my SDR, and my SDR will comment on your page if you're active, if you've posted something. So kind of bring different people, show that there is not only one person that is getting in touch with you, but kind of just to make sure that the prospect sees you and your organization happening. Also helpful right now, very much helpful, is being present on the LinkedIn platform yourself, posting, gathering people with the content. And it's really fascinating what you can accomplish when you become the media company that people want to give their attention to. So if you're able to attract their attention, and then send them a soft message yo, let's connect, let's chit chat about something, then started building a relationship from that. And then within some time, maybe started going more into asking if that's the thing, if something is happening, what are the challenges, to understand more. And then you have different outcomes from it. So sometimes they might tell you that this is a challenge, let's talk about it. Sometimes they might say, okay, I know the company that might actually find that useful because this is a challenge for them right now. And you have a referral. So being present on different platforms helps a lot. As far as the sequence goes, oftentimes we're going with triple, double touches. So let's say I'm sending my first touch would be, I found someone who posted on LinkedIn something or commented. So my first idea is to comment, and then send a friend request. Then within a couple of days, I'm going with the email. And then within a couple of days, I might be giving them a call or leave a voicemail on their LinkedIn. And the rule of thumb for me is to never pitch on LinkedIn. That's what I found works the best. You're kind of just keeping the conversation, building the relationships on LinkedIn, And everything business related, you're kind of moving it on the call or to the email. So that's what works the best for you. As for the length of those sequences, well, it depends. So sometimes you can have like a 17 touch drip that you have like, but the 17 touch, I'm saying that you have triple touch. So there's 3 touches on day 1. Then within the 3 days, you have like a double touch that you're going with the LinkedIn and then give them like a view on their profile or something like this. So it's definitely helpful. But the thing is this, that we are bombarded with a lot of things, and just putting your eggs into the one basket and going into one platform is a risky thing. So you kind of have to diversify, and that's the way we do it.
I agree. I think when I started in sales, we did only email, and I think now you're gonna have a really hard time succeeding if you're only on one platform. I think that the landscape has changed, and I think something you mentioned before, which is it's kind of about timing, right? Like if you have an amazing lead list that everybody's kind of in a buying mode, like that would be amazing. That's rarely the case. Like we know that we're going to reach out to a bunch of people who might theoretically be interested in what we're offering. Timing isn't right. Okay, happens all the time. How do we stay top of mind, right? How do we make sure that when timing is right, that we are the ones that they think about? And I think LinkedIn obviously is a fantastic platform for this, and just kind of engaging. And I really like that, you mentioned you don't pitch on LinkedIn, right? Like the more you can keep that as like this authentic place to kind of share, engage, interact, I think the more people are just going to like treat you as human and be more excited about working with you 3 months from now when the time's right.
That's exactly right. That's the power of the relationship. When you went through something that I've commented a couple of times, we shared the laughs, I've sent you memes and stuff like this, I've sent you some funny gifts. I'm staying on top of your mind without really me pushing yourself toward that thing. So kind of, tying it back to this croc brain, you're not in danger and you're learning something from you. So you already passed 2 filters. And then the time comes where I oftentimes hear that, I'm even doing like the random calls with the people in my network. So I'm like literally like saying, like we've been chatting with that person, like, yo, let's chat about everything. Just everything, just to understand who we are. You might be into something that I might help with. So I know some people in my network, if you're like launching the project, I can connect you with that person. That builds trust. And naturally what happens on those calls is, we're talking. And then like, yo, remind me, what are you doing? Like, and I'm just saying like, yo, we did this and this. Oh, I actually might need that in my organization. Like, okay, cool. But let's keep it like, at a similar topic, like a separate topic. We're talking about that at a specific time on another demo. Let's just focus on our topic, but I'll make sure that I'll send you like a request. And that the game here is the long term. You have to build trust, because I'm into booking the clients and making sure that the clients that I attract to are staying for the long term with us. That's the thing. We're in the SaaS business, and I don't want them to churn. And the only way to do that is to build a good relationship and make sure that your product delivers what they need, and they actually have a need to use that product. And the only way to do that, you won't find that in the first email or the first response or on the call. You kind of have to nurture them, and the answers will come like step by step.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think that gets into this kind of concept that we shouldn't be selling to everybody. We should be selling to people who actually have the problems that our solutions solve at the right time when they actually have them, I think. And the more we can just kind of let go of that need to constantly be selling, right? And understanding that, as you're mentioning, it's about the relationship. It's about building that rapport, which can take time, right? And but the more you do that, and you can do that with hundreds and hundreds of different people, when timing is right or when the problem presents itself, they're feeling primed. They're not feeling defensive. It doesn't come out of the blue. All of a sudden, you're trying to hit them with a pitch. Yeah. It's more authentic.
Yeah, it's kind of the thing that you also the very nice topic that you mentioned is you need to eradicate the feeling of neediness. That's the number one deal killer for every organization, and the only way to do that is to be confident. And to be confident, you have to have the big pipeline. So that's kind of the thing with consistency. You have to always be prospecting in the prospecting mode, but there's a difference. You have to be in prospecting mode, but you don't have to be in the selling mode.
Right.
You have to be always exploring the opportunities, always just touching here, touching there, kind of understanding what are the situations, but you don't have to sell. And that's kind of what gives you that confidence. Okay, if things don't work out, well, perfectly fine. I'm just moving to another deal. That's the thing. That's the biggest mindset switch and the change that we've implemented. And we noticed that you're being more authentic. People are willing to work with you because, when they feel like that you're needy, it's kind of like yo guys, I'm holding the bomb that is about to like to
Right.
go off.
Exactly.
Yeah, you have it. It's not working.
No, people smell it. And I think it's, but I really love what you said, that you always be prospecting, but don't always be trying to sell, right? I think that is a huge difference. So I think for most people kind of involved in sales, haven't really figured that out yet. I think it took me a long time to figure that out as well. That it's very different from like filling up your pipeline and like engaging and, starting these various touch points that can be more or less salesy, but more importantly, you're just making that connection to find out if they're even, facing this problem. And you sell when it makes sense to sell, when the problem presents itself, when the timing is right, when they've expressed an interest, right? Completely agree. It's been awesome talking, Yurii. I think we could go on probably another hour or so with all these great tips. It's been a lot of fun, and love the content you share on LinkedIn. So we'll make sure to follow you there as well. Thank you again for sharing your tips and insights with us.
Awesome.